I never get tired of that robot voice. I don't know why. I think it gives me nostalgia for airports. I haven't been to an airport in like a year. Okay. See, we have 4 people. We have, I believe, 47 questions. So I'm just gonna chunk them into like groups of 4, and we'll just go around the room and take turns. So Joe, do you want to take 4 of these?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. First one, here in Teclesia, at the entrance of the church. Nachram Pero, in the presence of the king. The third one is Patapos, in the tomb. And the fourth one is Min Matetes, with the disciples or pupils.
Yeah, good. Okay, any questions about those 4? All right, we're gonna move through these pretty quickly, but that's fine. The lesson today is kind of an intense one, so we can spend more time on that. Okay, Johnny, do you want to take the next 4?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see here. Pro impie. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the eta in there. Is that like an A or an A?
It's an A, pay.
Oh, okay.
And that question, that's a much bigger question that you just asked. So if you look at any of the traditional pronunciation things that I show you, you'll see that modern Bohairic speakers who are trying to connect with the ancient pronunciation will treat eta as an a sound. I've been working on this project for quite a while now, where I use a Arabic text written in the Coptic script. There are, I think, 5 etas in the entire text. It's really rare. And they only show up in Arabic words where there is this specific Arabic diphthong that's relatively rare. So in a lot of modern Arabic dialects, it's the A sound. So I think most likely is that that eta is literally A, but there's also the slightly smaller possibility that it is A or ai, like an A sound. Don't totally know for sure, but whichever one you choose, pro and pay, up to you.
Cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And then the next one is Joyce M. Pajoy. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't translate the last one. It was, let's see here, 5. The door of the house.
Good.
And then this one I just spoke was the master of the ship.
Good. Yeah.
And then 7 is let's see here. Njisoe and Najau. Najayu. Nice. And that one is the masters of the ships.
Yeah. The ship lords.
The ship lord. Nice. I like that.
I don't know why I like that phrase so much, but I just imagine a book called The Ship Lords, and I'm excited to read that book.
Yeah, it's very Viking, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And then the number 8 is Chere M. Pemhal. And that would be the daughter of the slave?
Yeah.
Cool. That's a female slave in particular, right?
It is not.
Oh, it's not just a regular slave? Gotcha.
Well, no. Also no. What kind of slave?
Let's see here.
I see this.
It's definitely like got the female definite article.
Nope.
Oh, that's not? Okay. Oh, that is a male slave. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, so I felt kind of like I know you didn't intend it this way, but I'm morally obligated to object to the use of the word regular to refer to a masculine noun because, we don't want to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to be careful about like normalizing gender. We're a bunch of dudes in here.
It is
Just
true.
realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's masculine side because it has the P on the front.
Cool.
Okay, very good work, Johnny. Tyler, do you want to take the next 4?
How y'all doing? Good morning.
Good.
And I got a wig if it's too masculine here, so we can play. Number 9 is Hirum pro umpe, which should be at the entrance of the door of the house. Okay.
Good.
That's good. Okay.
To the door of the house.
That one was awkward for me. O ecclesia unte petime, which is a church in the town or village.
Yeah, not in is okay, but it's not the best choice there.
What should we say then?
I'll just say of.
Of? Okay.
Inta is another way of saying of. And
Okay.
what's happening here is that Lambden says that there's a correlation between inta and the indefinite noun. And that's true. There is a correlation there. It's not perfect, but it exists. And basically what's going on is that inta has a sort of a looser relationship with the noun. So it's saying belonging to, a church belonging to the town versus defining the church in that way, the church that belongs to the town. It's kind of the difference between that and which.
Okay, number 11. O epistoli unte Paulos, and that's a letter from Paul or of Paul.
Yeah.
Number 12. Omatehitis in Jesus. Omatitis in Jesus, and that's I guess disciples of Christ.
Yeah, the disciples of Jesus.
The disciples of Christ. Him pran. Oh, that's mine.
Yeah,
right?
you can keep going if you want to.
No, that's fine. Someone else can go. I'll come back.
Okay, Christian, do you want to do 4?
These 4 right here?
Yeah, were you planning just to lurk in here, or are you going to read exercises too?
I mean, I since I read in the last class, I thought I'd just lurk, but since there's not as many guys here, sure. Joyce, in the name of the Nathan said master, but I imagine it's in the name of the Lord.
Yeah, what is that actually? Why do we say in the name of the Lord so often?
Well, it's a church thing, right? So you say
it's
that
a church thing. Jesus actually specifically states in the New Testament that anyone who prays in his name will receive whatever it is they've asked for. So people in church will often explicitly say, I ask this in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, in order to kind of like take advantage of that offer, right? It's like guaranteeing that the prayer will come true.
Close attention in CCD in Sunday school.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't. So this great. There was this show a few years ago where like this video went viral. And there's this lady, there's this like angry church lady who says like, get out of my house in Jesus' name, I pray. And I enjoyed that so much because it's like, she's just heard these phrases over and over and she's actually combining them. There's like, get out of my house in Jesus' name. Like I command you, with the authority of Jesus. And then in Jesus' name, I pray, which is actually another fixed phrase that's referring to this verse in the Bible. And she kind of merges them into one because she clearly hasn't understood the like theological distinction between those two statements. And I just think that's really fun. I don't know. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. It's also a really funny video. You can probably still find it. It's like from 10 years ago. It was some reality TV show, and this super angry, crazy lady went viral.
I'll have to look it up.
Anyway, yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so where were we? I got off track. Yeah, in the name of the Lord. There we go.
I got one sentence in. No.
Already like.
Bam, derailed. Just kidding. Nahram benute. In the presence of the God, or in the presence of God.
Yep.
Pekra, Pira, the shore or the bank of the river.
Good.
And Hijim Pekra and Talasa, on the shore of the sea or of the ocean.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about those four? In that case, we're going to keep just going around, but I'm gonna randomize it a little bit just so you can't predict when it's your turn, because I'm just evil like that. Johnny, do you want to do 4?
Sure. Sounds good. Okay, so 17. Hen unkake. Hen ukake.
Good.
In a darkness.
Yeah. This is also how Coptic would say darkly as an adverb, hinukake. We'll see more examples like that. Yeah, that's a more like, that's a future topic, but yeah.
Let's see, 18. Hirem pro em patahos. I'm sorry, em patapos. At the entrance of the door of the tomb. That's a little chunky there. I don't know. Maybe like at the let's see, maybe before the door of the tomb would make it a little more concise.
You could say that. You could say at the door of the tomb also, because hirem, it's literally broken down into at the entrance of, but you can also just understand it as a compound adjective that means essentially at. So you could just say at the door of the tomb. Either one of those is fine. Or before the tomb, whatever sounds nice to you in English and gets the idea across is fine with me.
Cool. Then let's see, 19. Enjopme em pematitis. And I have the books of the disciples.
Yeah.
And then number 20 is enrome en netme, the men of the village.
Good. The men of the
villages.
Villages. There we go. Okay.
I'm so glad that Coptic puts their definite articles in the front of these words, because it makes it so much easier.
So much easier. And it's actually it's how the language works, right? The definite article, we're going to talk about this more when we get to the lesson, but the definite article really is the basis of the word in Coptic. Most words that you'll see are definite, and Coptic really relies on the articles to do a lot of the sort of syntactic work of the language. So yeah, you'll see what I mean. If you've read ahead to lesson 4, you'll have an idea of what I mean by that, but we'll get to it. Okay, so let's see, we have 4 more, and how about Joe?
Number 1, Pone et Temro, the stone which is in the harbor.
Yep.
Number 2, Matetes et min Jesus, the disciples who are with Jesus, or the disciples with Jesus. Number 3, Pakake et Hygien Tepolis, the darkness which is in the city. And number 4, Ecclesia et Tepolis, the churches which are in the city.
Good. Very good. Okay. Any questions about these? No? Well, we'll just go to Tyler.
Number 5. Poioin et hin pewe.
I'd never noticed before that poin sounds like the sound that one of those little doorstop things.
Poing.
Yeah. It's like poin.
Poioin et hin pewe. Meaning the light that is in the skies or the heavens.
Yeah, good.
Number 6. Untuv et hin thalasa.
Good.
The fish plural that are in the sea, whether the fishes or fish, whatever you want. Number 7, Pohumhal et un nachram Pejois, the servant who is in front of the Dominus. What's Dominus?
Yeah.
Master. Sorry, I should write these in English, then it would be easier instead of translating it.
You can translate them into Latin if you like.
Well, servus quid condominus est then. So.
Oh, nice. That's wow. Nice.
No, I have weird notes. Number 8, Pumo et him peiro, and that's the water that is in the river.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So well done. I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, like we could just make a class where we just translate Coptic to Latin or something like that. That sounds like such a useful exercise.
I would be there every time. Thank you. Please
Yeah.
let me know when.
It might just be not many people, but
I'd be in for sure.
All right. Wow, we got 2 votes, 3 votes. I count myself.
We have an old textbook for Coptic in Latin somewhere, a PDF of it. We could just send it out.
Yeah. I think I've read that book actually when I was first. So when I was an undergrad, I started learning ancient Egyptian, and I was always interested in like reconstructing phonology, and I was really interested in like Latin and Greek phonology. And I found that I'm sure it's the same book. I don't know how many books in Latin about Coptic there are, but I found a book in Latin about Coptic and read it, and I thought that was just so fun. What a dork. Anyway. Okay, Tyler, do you want to do 4 more?
Sure, why not?
I skipped Christian. I'll come back to you, Christian. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten about you.
Rude.
I need to practice more than he does, I think, so. Number 9, un angelos et hin peue, and that's the angels that are in the skies. Number 10, un halo et him puto, the old men that are in the mountain.
Yeah. And then I think last class somebody did a monastery for this because the inn makes it seem like they're actually using mountain to mean monastery. So the old men who are in the mountain.
Like Mount Athos or something. Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's a monastery mountain. Sorry.
Oh,
It's
monastery.
like they live like they carved into it. They live in it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Number 11, un Rome it polis et Mao, and that's the men and the men of that city.
Yes, the men of that city, or the men of the city which is there. Either way is fine.
Yeah, that's what I wrote, and I'm trying to translate it better. Number 12, netme et Mao, and that's those cities.
Cities?
Or those cities. No, I'm sorry. Number 12, villages or towns, right? Yeah.
Villages or towns. And we had a cool discussion about that word on, came up in the Discord chat. It originally meant something like dock or pier. And it would refer to like stopping points along the Nile. So little villages or trading posts or whatever, they would always have some sort of like a landing for boats. And like that you can imagine in an ancient Egyptian world where there's like one river connecting everything. If you're a merchant and you're traveling from place to place, any place that has like a dock or a pier to tie up your boat and unload things is going to be really valuable. So that eventually became the word for town, because of course towns, I don't know which way it went, actually. This is a good research question, but like either towns went out of their way to build landings for boats, or places where people built landings turned into towns. Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know.
You can see that today. I've been like on the Amazon basin. That's basically how it works. A little pier becomes a town. At first, it's just a trading post, or it's just sometimes it's just in the water. Like I'm from Louisiana, it's very similar to here, just a pier attached to a tree in the water. Yeah, and that's something that we have here and there, and it's kind of how little towns grow.
That makes me think of Red Dead. Have you played Red Dead 2? Oh man, You would like it. So there's a big area called, I think it's called Saint Denis, where it's like,
Oh,
it's obviously like
I know that. I know
Louisiana.
what that is. If you're from
Yeah.
Louisiana, you don't like it because it's nothing like here.
Oh, it's not
It's
like
one of
it,
those
really?
people post things from here like, look what they did with this, or look how wide the streets are, or stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
it's weird for us because it's like our buildings pushed far apart, Grand Theft Auto style, in a way that you don't actually see it here, where the streets are
That's
narrow.
exactly what it is. And
Yeah,
there's also like, there's a lot of little like waterways and things. And if I were to see like a random dock attached to a tree, I would think like, oh, this is definitely some kind of trap. There's one trap where there's this like body hanging from a tree. And if you go up to the body, like some guys jump out and try to ambush you. So just FYI, if you're playing Red Dead 2 and you see a body hanging from a tree, be careful, because someone's gonna. Anyway, that's way off track, way off topic. But back to the idea, like you said, in the Amazon basin, or in really any place where there's a river as like the main artery of transport, any place where you put a dock is going to instantly become useful. So that's a very quick method of developing an area, is just put a dock there. You know, if you build it, they will come, kind of thing. I'm just totally obsessed with this idea of an entire civilization built along a single highway. That is just so fascinating to me. Like, I definitely want to write a sci-fi novel where it's like a tide-locked planet, and like a single straight line economy that runs along the habitable zone, that like along that planet or something. I don't know why, I just find that idea so fascinating.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Isn't that great? That's such a great, it's like so easy, high concept. I don't know what the story is going to be, but you know, you can just make that up as you go.
There's got to be some pyramids in there, you know, some space pyramids or something, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to have space pyramids. You like, I could, oh, what is Christian sending us? He's sending us, I hope these are.
It's the Coptic grammar, but in Latin, and then also a Latin Coptic dictionary.
Oh, that's sweet.
Awesome.
You can download the PDFs for free.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange that they're not trying to market these. Sorry. So sarcastic. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Christian. These are so cool. I'm definitely going to go look at these. And if you want to, you know, you have my permission to translate your exercises into Latin. Anyway, okay, Christian, do you want to do 4 of these?
Sure. Are we at 13?
Yeah.
All right. Immatedes Prome et mal. So the students or disciples of that man.
Yeah.
In Shere Impemhal et mal. The sons of that slave.
Yep.
Neju it hijim pikron piro. The boats which are on the shore of the river.
Good.
And then Nute and Tepe. The God is in the sky, or God is in heaven.
Yeah. And why did you translate that as a complete sentence, Christian?
Because it's got a period behind it. No.
Because it's got a period at the end.
Well, because I only know because we had this topic in the other class too. But English does this thing where you can say, you know, God in heaven, but Coptic can't do that, because God in heaven really means God that who is in heaven, or the God that is in the sky.
Yeah.
And so, but in Coptic, you can't just skip that relative marker, essentially. So if you wanted to say that, it would be Pnute eten tepe. Or like you showed in the other class too, the first line of the Lord's Prayer.
Oh yeah, let's have that.
Yeah, Pnute et pewe, our Father who is in the skies, or which I guess is another way of saying heaven. That's how you would say it, but that in of itself cannot, I guess, cannot be any other phrase but or sentence or meaning than, the God is in the sky or God is in heaven.
Yeah, and really what's happening is that there are two things that you might want to say. I'll just use English to illustrate. You might want to say the God is in the sky, or you might want to say the God who is in the sky. And then we have an option of deleting this and in either case and having a meaningful sentence. In English, when we delete this, we do it with this one, right? The God in the sky means the same thing as the God who is in the sky. In Coptic, when they delete something, they delete this one. So if you've got nothing, it becomes the sentence. If you've got something there, it's the relative clause. So it's just a little confusing from English because there's just this, there's like this null morpheme form. There's this default form. The default in Coptic becomes the adverbial sentence. The default in English becomes the relative clause. So yeah, just different ways of doing it. I'm sure you could argue that one way is like marginally more efficient because one phrase is used a little bit more often than the other. So it makes sense to make that one the zero marked one, but I don't know, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of arbitrary at that point. Does that all make sense? What's going on there? Okay, cool. And let's see, who am I going to pick on? Joe.
Let's see. Meneklesia Humpatima et Mamau. There is not a church, Humpatima, there is not a church in that town.
Yes, good.
Number 3, un angelos hierum puro patapos. There is an angel in the entrance of the tomb.
Yeah.
Number
Again, we
4.
have that hidden pro upon the door of the tomb, right? Yeah.
Number 4. An epistole min injotme. The letters are with the scrolls or the books.
Good. Yeah.
Can that also be the letters and the scrolls or the letters and the books?
It can. The only thing that's telling us it's not that here is this period, which is, we put that. So in a real text, yeah, it could be either one.
Okay. And then number 5, munjoome mao. There is not a book or scroll there.
Yeah. And this imau, you'll see this a lot in real Coptic sentences. That imau ends up in a lot of cases where you kind of don't need it in English. So like this sentence in a real text might be, there aren't any books. But Coptic would say, there aren't any books there. Yeah, without necessarily specifically referring to like an actual specific there. Just there aren't any books there. Okay, number 6, Johnny.
Alrighty. When umatetes ente Paulos hirem pro, there, let's see when I do that. So there is a disciple of Paul before the door.
Yeah.
Men woin hem pkake. There is no light in the darkness.
Yeah. So true.
Pajois em peye hem peye an. Let's see here. The master of the house is not in the house.
Yeah.
Let's see. Joy hijem Piero an. The boat is not on the river.
Good. The boat is not upon the river.
Or
Okay.
on top of, right? That's what you were
Yeah,
saying.
like literally on top of the river. Yeah, I'm not sure if you would expect to see that. I think you might expect he more often than he gem, but either way, it's out fine. Are we almost done? Oh my gosh. Wow, that went so fast. I guess I didn't ramble quite as much as I usually do. Christian, do you want to do the last three?
Okay. All right. Inchere empime hitehie. The children of the village are on the road.
Now, why did you say children?
Well, I guess you could say the sons, but I figured since there's no one that's referring to, I mean, it would also be a weird sentence, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the choice of the word children there because that this is the way Coptic would say children, right? It would use the masculine plural, or yeah, it just to say the kids, right? Inchere is just the kids. So yeah.
Yeah. And I also figure, Sheda, I mean, yeah, it means son in English, but if you think about it, it's just the male child of someone, and Sheda is the female child. So
yeah,
take the father or mother-child relationship, and you have the child.
Yeah.
Anyways, when hin tapos, hin necro et demo. There are was it tombs?
Yep.
In the banks, in those banks.
Yeah, weird sentence, but I assume you can kind of picture, maybe you can picture like Beni Hassan.
Well, it seems they use hun for things where we would say like on a lot, like hun do, like on the mountain.
Yeah, they do. They use in where we would say on. The connection between banks and tombs, I'm trying to think of like a good way. It's in my fiction book that I'm writing, by the way, if anyone's interested in that. There's always like tombs next to the river that you can like see from the river. It's kind of it's like a really cool, I'm not gonna be able to find a good photo of it, but it's like a really neat thing because like there's like the river and then the floodplain and then the kind of the white cliffs going up with just little holes in them that are tombs. It's super neat. Anyway, wrong thing. What are we doing?
So I guess in a sense they are in the shores.
Yeah, they are. It makes sense. Kind of a weird image, but yeah.
And Munukake Nijin Boris, there is a darkness upon the city.
Good. Yeah. Okay, so that covers it for exercises. I'm going to go to the book and we're going to look at this new thing. So there's a couple new things in lesson 4. There's this part that I'm going to talk about in a second, but just very briefly, I want to go over these minor additions. So one of the new vocabulary items that we learn in this chapter is the set of demonstrative adjectives, pei, te, ne. And the one kind of weirdness that I want to point out about this is that usually when we see ei in Saidic Coptic, it's really just one letter. It's like a Y sound or an I sound. In this particular word, it actually is ei. It's actually 2 sounds. So pei rome, te isime, ne isneu. Yeah. And as for why that is, there's etymological reasons that allow us to see that. So that it originally was vowel plus semi-vowel. And oftentimes in Coptic, you'll see this written epsilon iota, and then the iota will have little 2 dots above it, the diaeresis, that indicates that they're supposed to be pronounced separately, not merged into one, one single sound. Anyway, and then another minor thing that we're going to learn here is this infix ke, which means other. So we have a couple examples. Kerome, another man. That's just it's urome, a man. With ke, you don't normally keep the indefinite article, but in the plural you do. So henrome, some men, becomes hinkerome, some other men. And then you can also do this with the demonstrative. So you could have peirome, this man, peikerome, this other man. And you could have pajoi, my ship, or pakejoi, my other ship. So that's just a thing to note, that the ke word meaning other tends to get stuck into the noun rather than being a separate adjective like we do in English. And that is really the two real Coptic adjectives that's actually still productive, is the word ke for other. The other one is the word nim, that means all or every. There might be a couple more, but Coptic really doesn't have syntactic adjectives anymore, except for those few. Okay, and now the big part, this is where it gets super interesting. I think this is the first time so far in this class where we've seen something in Coptic that just has no counterpart in English or really in any other language that I've ever studied. So if we want to express possession, like we want to say my father, in Coptic, we don't add something to the word, we don't add a separate word. What we actually do is we add something to the definite article. So possessed nouns are always definite. Of course, if you say my father, we're referring to a specific one. So it can't be indefinite, so that already works fine. But the key fact to learn about this is that the definite article really does a lot of the heavy lifting for the noun in Coptic. And this is a historical development. So between Middle and Late Egyptian, we developed the use of this definite article. This pata na paradigm starts being used all the time. And then very gradually, the noun starts being sort of stripped of its purposes. It stops expressing gender and number, and it really sort of atrophies into becoming just the lexical information. So in the case of yot really only communicates the meaning of father. It doesn't communicate gender or number. It kind of doesn't operate in the syntax of the language as an independent entity. It really is just the meaning component of the word. So you can see that we've kind of distilled out, like if I take an English noun like ancestors, that has a whole bunch of things going on. It has, it could be multiple genders. It's not specifically one gender. It's markedly plural. And it has this meaning that means, you know, people who lived before. Coptic actually kind of takes the meaning into the noun and then takes all the other stuff like gender and number and puts it onto the article. So then when we want to possess something, it's actually the article that we add the possessive suffix to instead of the noun. You'll see some exceptions to this as we go along. So there are still quite a few cases in Coptic where we do add the possessive directly to the noun. You see those most often in compound prepositions. So words like he to'otef, upon his hand, we add the suffix to the noun to'ot, that means hand. But in general, in Coptic, we actually add the possessive suffix to the article. So if anyone in here has studied like Middle Egyptian, do you know how to say my father in Middle Egyptian? Does anyone know that? So I'll put it up on the screen real quick.
Like you add the suffix to the behind the word. So
yeah,
like father is like eat or yut or whatever way you say it, yot, I guess. And then you add the e for first person singular behind it.
Yeah. Yot. Probably just pronounced yot or yote. But yeah, my father. Just like in Hebrew or Arabic, you put the suffix pronoun onto the noun itself. So your father, yotek, or yotak, or something. I'm not sure the vocalization. So you always put it directly onto the noun. And then in Late Egyptian, we started getting this kind of thing, where you say like pyot for the father, have like article noun. And then when you want to add possession, they actually would use a form like this. So Pefyot, his father, or really If it were fully stressed, it would be like payef yat, really, at this time, but payef yat, so his father. So what's happening is, instead of putting the suffix of possession onto the noun itself, we're really just kind of like taking the noun, using it only to express the lexical content, and then we're using this new article construction to be the head word of the noun phrase. We're making it everything stand on that. So there's a bunch of examples. I'll tell you, the tricky thing about this is that new students will take an example like Pefyot, his father, and if I ask you to change that into her father, people will often say something like Tefyot, like they'll change the article to agree with her instead of changing the actual suffix pronoun. That's not how it works. That word that I just said, which I don't even want to say again, is not a real word. It's kind of meaningless. The article always has to agree with the noun. It expresses the gender and number of the noun, and it's really this infixed suffix pronoun that expresses the gender of the possessor. So Pefyot, his father, becomes Pesyot, her father. And I point that out to you. I make a special point of it because it can be kind of frustrating. It's something that new students just get wrong over and over and over until it finally clicks. I can promise you that it does click, because it clicked for me eventually. And now I have no trouble with it at all. But it just takes a little bit of time. So for this table, you're welcome to sit down and memorize this table if that's how you learn. I never did that. I don't really think that's necessary at all. I think much better is to use the exercises and, eventually, once we get further along, use things like reading practice just to become comfortable with that way of doing things, and not ever try to do a bunch of memorization. But again, totally up to you, however you learn best. So are there any questions about this way of doing things?
So it's kind of like Latin languages, where the possessive pronoun matches the gender of the object, not the gender of the possessor.
Yes.
So padre is based on padre, right? It's based on the possessed object, not on the gender of the possessor.
Yeah, and if you had the adjective, like in Latin, if you have the adjective, it agree. Wait, the inflectional endings agree entirely with the noun. So if you had like patri suo or something, the O on the end agrees with the gender number in case of the noun that it's referring to, and then it's the actual su part, the choice of adjective, which refers to the possessor. So if you wanted to change it to to your father, it would be patri tuo, instead of changing anything about the inflection. Similar thing here. And it's really like there are just two parts to this type of article. It has both gender and number of the noun, and gender, number, and person of the possessor, just rolled up into, oh, sorry, that's not part of it. This is nas name. Gender, number, and person of the possessor rolled into one thing. And I think Lambden specifically says it's good to remember these as a unit, like remember ness. Don't necessarily try to break it down into n and s, because it's not really even clear where the boundary between those two parts is. You can just think of it as a single morpheme that contains two separate sets of information. Net and sneu is y'all's brothers, whereas if you wanted to change it to y'all's brother, you would say petin son, right? Change this part, not this part. And it just takes practice to get used to that. Okay, good observation, Tyler. Does anyone have any questions before we go? Do you feel adequately prepared to tackle the exercises for next week?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I had a gee whiz question though, Casey.
yeah?
Now that we're kind of done with most of the stuff, has anybody ever tried to translate the Bible or the Saidic Bible into actual Egyptian hieroglyphs?
I have no idea. I've never seen one. It could be done. For the most part, it could be done because we do have the lexicon that for that time period. If you wanted to translate it into late Egyptian, you would actually have a reasonably easy time of it, because so if you try to translate it into Middle Egyptian, you'd have a hard time because we don't really understand Middle Egyptian grammar, and anyone who says they do is slightly delusional. Except maybe Jim Allen, but I'm not opposed to saying that Jim Allen is slightly delusional, because he does have his quirks, but damn, he understands the grammar of Middle Egyptian. It's frustrating when you're his student because he really gets it and like nobody else does. But if you wanted to do late Egyptian, where the grammar is just still so similar to Coptic, you could almost certainly do it without really running into any impossible hurdles. So if you, Johnny, if you want to take it upon yourself to create a Bible for the entirely deceased people who only read late Egyptian,
Yeah.
it's a cool exercise. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm gonna have to maybe get on some late Egyptian. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like do a verse or two, see how it works out. I might try to do a verse or two.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like the Lord's Prayer even or something. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
it'd be really good.
Maybe roll it up
learning
into
tool.
a tattoo request or something, you know?
Yeah. I used to get so many of those. I haven't gotten many lately, but yeah, tattoo requests are always fun. I'll tell you guys, since we have 10 minutes left and we're pretty much done, I'll tell you a funny story. I hope this actual person never sees this YouTube video or whatever, because I don't mean to embarrass them. But I met a dude. I was at Paleface in Austin, going cliff jumping, because that's what I used to do all the time as like a hobby when I was in college.
Really?
And
Holy cow.
it's so fun, you guys. It's like the funnest thing. It's one of these, like all of my favorite activities involve this moment of like maximum terror that you have to conquer, because I'm just like a weirdo like that. So like I like to go ski. Skiing is my favorite thing in the whole world. And I'm very, very into jumping off of things. And I'm also super terrible at it. So I just wreck out like half the time. And also cliff jumping, because there's this moment where you jog up to the edge of the cliff and there's this like point of no return where you either have to, change your mind or just like jump off the cliff. I'm super into that. But anyway, I was out there and we were just like hanging out, and there was another group of people at the same place also going cliff jumping. And I met this dude with this tattoo that said, it said this. I think it was like this, or maybe it just had the eye hieroglyph. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, you have like a hieroglyphic tattoo. That's so cool. And then I stared at it and I was like, I have no idea what this says. What in the world? I was like, man, this is what I do. I have no idea what that says. What does that say? He said, oh, it says my mind's eye. If you transliterate it, it's literally, oh, whoops, I did that wrong.
If you would have had the I in there, like, like a reed in between the owl and the N, that would have been a little easier.
But it's also just like after I was like, oh, okay. So like, and I figured it out. I was like, oh, it's just like the English phrase, like transliterated. It became very obvious to me that he sincerely believed that that's how Egyptian hieroglyphs work. Like he believed that this was the correct translation into ancient Egyptian of this phrase. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so awful. I don't even know. Like, I can't tell you that. Also, he was like a huge dude and we're like out in the middle of the woods. I was like, I don't really want to piss this guy off too much.
Yeah, no doubt.
He might punch me and throw me off the cliff. But also what it says is, please her boob eye.
Oh, really? Like an actual Egyptian?
Actually Egyptian.
Oh my gosh.
Manot means it means titty.
Oh, that's so funny.
So bad. I was like, oh man, I could never tell this guy that that's what his tattoo says. But that is just, what a terrible, terrible coincidence.
I don't think you have to worry about him finding this video.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Clearly a bit, like, I don't want to be mean to this guy or whatever. Like, he can tattoo whatever the hell he wants. But also clearly just kind of like an intellectually incurious dude. So So yeah, I think he's perfectly fine with it saying, "Please, her titty, I."
I might get that
which-
tattoo. I mean, that's pretty sweet.
Get it? It's great. It's really fun. Yeah, and it could be describing some sort of sex act that I want to know more about.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
but there you go. So that's your takeaway for today. You can enjoy that fact. Definitely putting this lecture as the one on YouTube. So there's that little bonus at the end for anyone who watches it all the way through.
cool.
And I'll let you guys go.
All
We'll-
right. Thank you,
we'll
Casey.
come back
Or
next
Christian,
week
I
for
mean.
more.
Sorry. Cool.
Okay. Bye, everyone.